Hi, this is Dr. T here. I think it's very timely for me to share with you the impact of the recent coronavirus to understand its life cycle and also possible impact on the stock market. And so currently, I think the coronavirus still ongoing. But firstly, we must understand what is it, right, and its background and so on. All right. So before I start, just a quick introduction. I'm Dr. T here. My expertise is in the area of computational simulation with applications in many areas, including like the stock market and so on. So you can see later on, I could also apply some of the technical analysis in this trend analysis of the coronavirus, right? Details of the stock market we can learn in future, but today we're focusing on this health crisis, right? So if you are interested in the learning about investment finance, you can visit my website at ein55.com. Okay. Okay, we move on to understand, but before that, just to be clear, right? All these are my personal opinion, so you have to make your own decisions, all right? Regardless is a financial decision or even a health decision, right? All my analysis here are based on my personal view, based on the facts I gather so far, right? Okay, so let's move on to understand what is the coronavirus. Okay, the first thing when it happens in roughly we heard probably around January, right, in 2020 about this new virus, right, about the outbreak. So this remember us of the last frightening SARS, which happening was in the year of 2003. So in fact, SARS was very fearful, right? Part of the reason because it could cause 10% of people infected to die, right? So that's why it caused a lot of fear, right, in the stock market as well. Okay, at the same time, coronavirus right now still ongoing, right? And people frightening, so they worry, right, how it can actually impact on their life and also on the financial market. Okay, let's continue with further details here. Right. So these are a comparison of the common viruses, right? Just to have a better understanding. Okay, for sure we have a good understanding of the flu, right? Flu probably come every year, right? Almost every 6 months, especially during winter time, right? Depends on which part of the world. And in fact, for flu, right, it looks like very mild, but people may not know that, right? Although the fatality rate, right, only 0.05% of infected patient may die. This is a very low rate, but because flu affecting a lot of people, right? In fact, there could be tens of thousands people die every year globally, right? So at the same time, if you compare with SARS, right, 10% of the fatality rate, but at the same time, SARS spreading is limited. So that's why at the end, it did not cause too much harm, right? Once it's actually go away. But now, right, the 2019, right, this coronavirus still ongoing. At the same time, it has a feature. Number one, it spread wider than SARS, but it's less than flu. So that's why its impact is probably in between SARS and the common flu. Currently, the coronavirus has the fatality rate about 2%, but this is mostly within China itself. If outside China, right, probably is less than 1%, right? So that's why in general it's still considered a mild virus. Okay, this is the equation to compute number of death cases, right, which is a function of both number of infected, right, multiplied by the fatality rate. And there's one parameter called R naught, right? R naught basically, is to measure, right, if one person is infected, right, this person could actually infect more people. right? So in general, right, the higher it is, right, the spreading will be more, right? For example, you look at the case of measles. Measles is very contagious, but again, it's very mild. So that's why, so all depends on different types of viruses. Okay, so we move on. Before we move on, just to have an understanding, all right. Under the worst case scenario, right, on the coronavirus, um, the because the fatality rate is low, so that's why it's not a very so-called major concern, but people still worry. So let's move on further to understand, when it may have potential to end and so on. Okay, let's do a comparison of the SARS versus the coronavirus right now. So you can see in year 2003, right? Let's say we keep track since the day one of the outbreak for the SARS. Eventually is saturated to maybe around 8 to 9,000 cases, and then reaching a peak. The whole duration for SARS was around roughly 8 months. Compared with this coronavirus, it picked up very fast. So you can see within a shorter time, probably in less than a month or so, it shoot up to more than 40,000 cases, and as of today, still ongoing, right? But there's a likelihood that it could actually end faster, right? It's possible. So we have to monitor, right, more new cases from here. So that's why, at least at the moment, right, we do not have to worry too much, right, about this new virus. Okay, we move on to the next page just to compare the current statistic on this coronavirus for Singapore versus the whole world. Right, as of today, today is the 11th of February, so I have the data as of 10th of February 2020. Right, all this data you can get it from some official website, right? But I plot it myself, right, to do additional analysis. So you can see on the left axis here, this is the whole world number of people infected. Right now, in fact, is more than 40,000. At the same time, the y-axis here, on the second y-axis, this is Singapore cases. So you can see it's very interesting, right? Singapore, right, which is the orange color here, follow the axis on the right, versus the whole world, right, axis on the left, which is the blue color line. In fact, it's almost aligned in terms of the growth rate, right? Right. So it means they are actually moving, right, in the same phase. Just the difference is 1 to 1,000, the difference, right? And this is in fact aligned with the population ratio, right? Singapore has around 5.5 million people, right, versus the whole world, right, as of last year around 7.7 billion, right? So this roughly close to around 1,200 or 1,300 kind of ratio. So that kind of population differences reflected in the number of cases infected. So in general, we can conclude the cases in Singapore are quite normal, right, aligned with the rest of the whole world, right, which right now mainly is dominant by the China cases, right? So, but it also implying that if we can understand the trend in the whole world, right, then we can also understand the trend of the cases in Singapore, right? It means the whole world, the coronavirus, the behavior, right, in the whole world spreading, right, likely will behave about the same in Singapore as well. And since there are more cases in the whole world, right, so therefore its behavior will be more predictable, more consistent compared with Singapore with less cases. Right now is, as of today, is roughly 45 cases. All right, with that understand, all right, we also want to take note, there are two important phases of the growth rate, right? The actual starting date of the virus, no one know exactly, right? Of course, we may have first heard of it, right, around December time 2019. But the official reporting of the data, right, we have gathered is from 22nd of January 2020, right? So from here, we call it as a day one, and we keep track every year, right, with the official website, reporting all the data for Singapore and the whole world cases. So we tabulate it. So we can see in the first 15 days, this is called high growth period, right? It means it grew almost like exponentially, but around from roughly on the 15 days, I counted from 22nd of January 2020, right, we start to see it slow down. All right, in this chart here, it's not obvious to see the slowing down. Later on, I'll show you the later chart will be clearer. Right? So it means from day 15 onwards, right, from here, which is from 5th of February 2020, right, the growth rate, right, start to slow down. And this is a good news. And this is an important turning point. Although it's not declining in the number, but it will move up, go up, in a slower manner. Okay, so we need to actually continue to monitor the number every day. But right now, the good news is this slow growth has sufficient, roughly 1 week of data to provide some minimum consistency, right, to show a possible reversal. Right, we move on to do the comparison on the number of cases every day. So all these are the new cases every day, right, reporting, and then it will be add up to the earlier slides here. So this is accumulation of the everyday cases, and whereas this is the number of cases reporting every day. And we can see it's very interesting to take note, right? The whole world, which is the blue data here, is more consistent, while Singapore cases, because there are less number, so it tends to fluctuate. But even so, you can see it follow the trend of the whole world quite nicely. So you can see same thing from day one. This is the so-called high growth region. Until day 14, we still do not know. On the day 15, right, which is the 5th of November, we see the first point, right, is coming down. Okay, at the same time, we can take note that this downtrend, right, is only consistent, right, if there are more number of points. So now we monitor, right, in the last 1 week, these 7 days are coming down, right? So in fact, we can build a simplified model. We call it a bilinear model. Bilinear means a straight line go up, right, coming to a reversal point here, to a slow growth, then a linear line coming down. So in fact, you can use a simple equation, y equal to ax plus, plus c and so on, right? So this simple linear equation, right, currently, right, is being followed quite accurately, right? So although for Singapore cases, it's still fluctuating quite a lot, right? For example, could be one day 7 cases, and then another day could be 2 cases. This is mainly because the diagnosis probably could be done on the same day itself, right? Although it could come from different days. So that's why in general, it's better to keep track of the whole world, but with understanding for Singapore likely to follow the similar trend as well. Huh? Okay, so right now people concern is when the peak may be reached. So assuming there's only one single peak, right? It means you're going to go up gradually, right? We go to the earlier chart here. It means this accumulation will go up all the way, and eventually you'll saturate somewhere, and then you'll stay there, not increasing anymore. Then it means the number of new cases will be equal to 0. So when that day may come, right, assuming there is no second peak, it means it goes up and then it'll come down, and so we can actually understand, its potential. So what I can do it this way, we monitor the changes, right, over here. So assuming this is a very consistent downtrend, we can actually draw an intersection over here. And this is the ideal case. It means the ideal peak will be around day 30, 32, or the 32nd day counted from the 22nd of January. And this day, right, estimated on the 22nd of February, 2020. Right, of course, this is an assumption based on there's no second peaks, means the growth rate will consistent go down, it will not go up anymore, right? So because right now you can see all the countries in the whole world, right, they're taking very strict measures, right? In the China, right, all their main cities, we have isolation measures, so that will help to limit the spreading of the virus. Right, at the same time, Singapore, right, do the similar kind of control, right, with checking with a less, number of people with a mass gathering, that could help to slow down, right? So this, in fact, the numbers here could reflecting the effort of the whole world, right, moving in that direction. Or another way we can think of, there's a potential for the virus to spread. All right. So once it spread to enough number of people, let's say over 40, 50,000 people, right? It may come to a saturation, right? In fact, based on this simple model here, right, when you reach a peak, probably it will be close around between maybe 55 to 60,000, right, kind of number, before, right, eventually you'll saturate there, right? So when you reach a peak, it means the number will start to decline. Why? Because those infected will recover, right? So the number of people who are infected over here eventually come to a peak, it will come down with number of more recovery cases. And that recovery phase will take some time, could be between 1 to 2 months. Okay, so with this understanding, also knowing that similar to stock market, right? No one could know the future exactly, right? We just have to use some facts plus analysis to give our best estimation. But at the same time, right, it's best we still need to monitor the trend based on the newly reported data every day to fine tune the model. But ideally, right, it means that this nightmare may have another 1 or 2 months to go, right? So it means in February, probably we may reach, the worst case of the coronavirus, right? It means it may reach a peak before the end of February. Okay, so we continue from here, right? Looking at the past experience of the SARS. So these are the actual cases of SARS. You can see SARS also ex experiencing something similar from November 2002. Right? It start to go up. Yes, a few multiple peaks, right? So you can see in March 2003, it hit a peak, right? If it declining downwards over here, right, of course it could end, but it has a second peak, right? So this is what we worry about coronavirus, right? Right now, for example, right, the China, right, people they start to go back to work after the Lunar New Year, right? So that could potentially create a second wave of growth. We never know. So that's why currently the model here is assuming a single peak for the coronavirus. Right? So it means this declining growth rate will not go up again. So we have to monitor, right? Currently, this downtrend has been consistent for a week, which is a good sign. Whether it can continue for another, maybe 2 more weeks, eventually I die down, right? So that yet to be observed. Okay, at the same time, so this second peak is in fact it prolonged the SARS virus, to another 1 month plus before it eventually, ends before the summertime. Yeah, because usually summer is warmer, right? It's more difficult for the virus to survive. But based on the current case for the coronavirus, it may end. It may end actually earlier than this SARS, although it spread faster and more cases. Okay, this is just a model of the possible life cycle of the coronavirus. So this is a normal distribution, right? We can use it, as an estimation. So usually for this kind of cases, right, the virus will grow very fast. So this is usually during the first few months of the cases. For example, starting from whichever date in December 2019, because the exact first case no one would know, right? And then we have official report going up here in January time, right? Especially during the Lunar New Year time, and then get worse, right? And then the first red signal of possible reversal in the growth rate, right? Which is actually over here, right? So from 5th of February, right, we notice it start to slow down, which is over here. So we can see the case here, right? This number start to drop, right? But one day drop may not be consistent, and it continue on the 6th of the February, and then it continue for another 1 week or so. So that's why this possible, right, turning point here, this could be reliable. But the number will still continue until it hit a peak, right? Then the number of cases, right, new cases will not be added anymore, but then it will decline because there'll be patients who actually recover. Eventually, right, go back to zero again, right? That will take some time. So based on the estimated peak of 22nd of February, plus minus a few days, right? Depends on whether there's a second peak. And then if not, you will start to decline, right? And of course, in between, there are people, a few may be infected, and then there are more who recover. So it means the number of cases should drop, and it will drop initially a bit slow, right? And then probably in the next 1 month after it reaching a peak, because typically for the case of SARS, it may take roughly 1 month plus to recover. I think for the case of this coronavirus, it could be about the same. I think 1 to 2 months is possible. With 1 to 2% patient, right, may die due to a serious condition. Okay, it means 98 to 99% of the infected cases should recover eventually, and then there'll be less cases, with time. So it's estimated, before the next summer come, right? Let's say around maybe April to May, right? If everything goes smoothly, right? The current health crisis on the coronavirus, right, could end, all right? So let's keep our finger crossed, right? At the moment, I'll say the point one and two could be considered confirmed, and point three are coming soon. So point three will be crucial because between Singapore and China or the rest of the whole world, there could be a lagging effect because the first case of Singapore is probably a month later than in China. But based on the earliest chart, we can see, in fact, both countries are quite aligned. So it means that we need to monitor the peak reported, right, in the next few weeks for the whole world, right? And then that will use to fine tune whether Singapore will follow similar peak or Singapore will be, probably a few weeks delay or not. Okay, but if the whole world, especially China, if the number of cases are coming down or reaching a peak, for sure that will help the Singapore as well, right? Okay, and now we look at the number of death cases, right? Roughly 1 to 2% of case, may die. So you can see right now this uh, growth rate is still high. So that's why even the number of cases may reach a peak, the number of death cases may still continue, right? Because from the day the patient infected until possible death, that may take roughly 1 to 2 months. Okay, so that's why even the coronavirus may reach a peak somewhere by end of February. The number of death cases may continue, right, before it reach a peak, maybe another 1 month or later. Okay, so with that understanding, right, we move on to understand the impact of the coronavirus on the global stock market. Right, so many people worry about the health crisis, but once they understand the health crisis could be over in a few months' time, then they start to looking at potential opportunity to the stock market, because crisis is opportunity as long as a crisis is not for too long, right? So based on the comparison over the last 3 months, right, because this health crisis could be shorter term, so that's why we just do a comparison of last 3 months of the global stock market. USA S&P 500, and Germany DAX index, China SSCC, Singapore SDI. So you can see if we draw a line here, this is the starting of the Lunar New Year, right? 2020. So we can see roughly the outbreak of the coronavirus becomes serious, right? From then, in fact, China market, was not trading for roughly probably 10 days or so. So that's why the accumulation of fears and the accumulation of the fear causing China market actually to drop this roughly 8% when it reopened, right? Probably a few days ago, right? So at the same time, in average, I would say 3 to 8%, right? The market actually fall down, and this is very reasonable. But once the cases right now are kind of did not get worse, right? Kind of stabilizing, right? Increasing steadily. Right? In fact, the number of cases each day are showing declining, right? So that's why the global investor, right, are not that fearful, especially more good news in the USA because USA reporting stronger economy and so on. So that's why these are the two uh, this major economy in the whole world, right? USA and China. USA contribute to more than 50% of the stock market value and probably economy as well. China, right, currently contribute to roughly 15%, 1 5, right, to the whole world versus in the year 2003, right, when SARS, happening. During the SARS time, right, China only contribute roughly 5% to the whole world. So that's why SARS, the impact is probably more to the regional or local market, not exactly to the whole world. And there are also a few differences, right, of SARS versus coronavirus. Right, SARS when it occurred in 2003, right, that was roughly near to the end of the dot-com bubble burst from year 2000 to 2003. So that's why when SARS was ending, right, in just 8 months' time, the market actually recovered. But for coronavirus, it's a bit different because the global stock market is at a higher optimism. For example, USA over 75% optimism, Singapore and Germany probably close around nearly 50% optimism, whereas China still around low optimism of around 25%. So it means that in terms of the coronavirus, right, likely it will be just a correction, right, based on the current situation. Right, if the health crisis do not last for too long, right, and at the end the short-term market, right, can go up higher. However, since the global stock market at a higher optimism, right, it means that a better, safer approach will be on the shorter term trading or investing. Right, we could actually following the trend. For example, right, if you look at the China, all right, and the Singapore, this in terms of trend here, right, although there's a recovery here, right, this is a very short term, right. So it means that the trend has to be even stronger. For example, you look at the case of the USA. USA has, in fact, after the correction over here, achieve another new high, right? So that actually motivate the traders to buy high, sell higher. Yeah, so this kind of approach may not be suitable for everyone. So that's why for each of you, all right, you need to actually understand your personality. Are you more suitable for shorter term trading or longer term investing? Right, for longer term investing, despite some sectors like some businesses like food and beverages, transportation stocks, some consumer stocks, right? They could be, under significant correction, probably more than 25 or 50%. It could be, right? But those correction, right, may not be a good buy yet, right? If the current crisis has a longer term impact, right? So that's why it depends on individual business. It's very important to understand the economic mode, right? How the business is operating, right? So if the business could not recover, right, in the short term, let's say between probably 3 to 6 months, right, where the company has enough cash, asset, to last through. So all these are important consideration. Don't simply buy low, right? Hopefully can sell higher, because sometimes buy low, right? Especially for crisis stock, it may actually get lower. Okay, this is just a snapshot of the uh, this current market. So that's why this is currently is still considered just a short-term market reaction, but the stock market is forward-looking, right? So that's why it's important, right, to combine and integrate the coronavirus analysis and the stock market analysis together to understand when the price up and down, is it due to the fear of greed, or is it due to the true changes in the fundamental in the business or in terms of macroeconomy and so on. Right. So finally, right, probably for those who are interested in the learning about the stocks, looking for opportunity, right, you may consider to learn from Dr. T. I have this 10 strategies could teach you, right, for free in the future, right. This a meetup in Singapore here, right. So for example, how to buy low, sell high, uh, and how to position the current stock market with more details for both investing and for trading, even to collect dividend as a passive income, right? How to do spring cleaning, how to leverage on the next global financial crisis. What are the possible black swans in this coming few years? Okay, at the same time, what to buy for the giant stocks, when to buy, when to sell, right, and so on, right? So all these I will cover in more details, right, in the free 4 hours course here. So every month I'll conduct a free public seminar. All right. So you can log into my website, all right, ein55.com. All right. Usually in the evening time. You can look for a convenient time. If the virus, spreading is still ongoing, right, you can take a rest for 1 month, 2 months, right. See a suitable opportunity, right. You can register for the next available this workshop. Okay, you can bring along your friends. I register together. Right. Meanwhile, you can download Dr. T two free ebooks related to stock investment, right, from this website as well. So during the next meetup session, I'll show you how to actually do a stock screening, and then you can also bring potential stock of your interest. We can do a stock diagnosis together for educational purpose. Okay, with that, take care, everyone. All right, and wish a good health to everyone. All right, so be healthy and be wealthy, huh? So this is important. And take care until we meet again. All right, bye bye.